You did not go quiet because you were tired. That is the story you tell people. It is a good story. It is small enough that nobody asks a second question. But it is not true. This is not exhaustion. This is not burnout. This is not some soft modern phrase for a battery running low. Something inside you made a decision. It made that decision without consulting you. No discussion, no warning. And then it started closing doors. One day your phone was face down on the table. Then it was silent. Then the little red numbers stopped mattering to you, and you noticed something that frightened you slightly. Relief, not guilt. Relief. Most people never reach that point. They keep the sound on for 40 years and call it being a good person. You turned yours off. And now some part of you is waiting to be told you did something wrong. You did not. What you did has a name. Almost nobody will say it out loud, because saying it makes people uncomfortable. So I am going to say it. If that just moved something you cannot name, stay. What follows was built for people like you. What you are about to hear is not clinical advice, but an immersion into the analytical psychology of Carl Jung. We will speak of the psyche from structure, not from the consulting room. And I warn you, if you came here for soft words, turn it off now. This is going to hurt before it liberates. Let me tell you what happened to you. There is a point in the life of certain people where the psyche stops negotiating. Not a breakdown, not a decision, a threshold. I call it the iron threshold, because iron does not bend back once it has set. Everything before that point is negotiation. You give a little more, you stay a little longer, you answer a little faster than you wanted to, and you tell yourself the account will balance eventually. You tell yourself all this output will come back to you in some form. Then one day the negotiation ends, not with an argument, with arithmetic. Jung had a word for the thing that runs out. He called it libido, and he did not mean it the way Freud meant it. That is the confusion that has followed him for a century. Jung took the word and widened it. In his hands it meant something much larger, the total psychic energy available to a human being, not sexual drive, fuel, the whole tank, for everything you will ever do, feel, notice, or decide. His observation was simple and unsentimental. Almost nobody repeats it. That energy is finite. It obeys the same law as any other energy in a closed system. It goes where you direct it, and it does not go anywhere else at the same time, which means every notification you answered was not free. It cost something. It cost a unit of the only fuel you have. And you paid that cost thousands of times a week, for years, for a return that never once arrived in a form you could hold. The iron threshold is the moment your psyche audits the ledger and closes the account. That is all a silenced phone is. It is not avoidance, it is an audit result. Now, where did the account come from in the first place? Jung traced most adult patterns back further than adults like to look, and when you follow the reachable ones back, you find the same thing almost every time. They were reachable as children. They were reachable because being reachable was safer than being absent. Think about the house you grew up in. Somebody in it had a mood that arrived without a schedule. Maybe it was loud, maybe it was worse than loud, and it was quiet. And you learned something at 6 or 7 years old before you had language for any of it. The safest position in that house was within earshot, always. If you could hear it forming, you could get ahead of it. So you built a system. You learned to keep one channel permanently open. One part of your attention, always facing outward, always listening for the tone change, always ready to move. You were never fully alone in a room, because a piece of you was standing at the door. At 6 years old, that system was brilliant. It kept you intact. It let you read the weather before the weather arrived. Children who can do that survive things that break children who cannot. The problem is that nobody ever came to switch it off. Nobody sat you down at 19 and said the house is behind you now. You can bring that part of yourself back inside. So it stayed at the door. It is a loyal system. That is the whole trouble with it. You are 30 now, or 40, or 50, and that channel is still open. It has been open for 4 decades. It is still facing outward, still listening, still ready to move. And now the tone changes arrive by push notification 120 times a day from people who are not in danger and never were. You did not become addicted to your phone. Your phone found a door that had been standing open since you were 7 and walked straight through it. This is not mysticism. It is not weakness of character. It is economics. A system built for a house with 3 people in it was handed 400 contacts, and it was asked to keep the same promise to all of them. It held for a while. Of course it did. You had youthful reserves, and then it stopped. Now I want to walk you through what that open channel actually costs you. Jung's real interest was never the wound, it was the accounting. There are 3 consequences here, and they get worse in order. The first I call the answering reflex. Watch yourself the next time a message arrives. Watch the gap between the sound and your hand. There is no gap. There is no moment of decision in there. No evaluation. No weighing of whether this deserves you right now. Sound, then hand. That is all there is. It is a doorbell wired directly into your spine. That is not a metaphor for laziness. It is a description of a reflex arc. A reflex, by definition, is a response that bypasses judgment. Judgment is slow, and the original situation could not afford slow. Your 6-year-old nervous system removed the deliberation step on purpose. It was an upgrade, but a reflex cannot tell the difference between an emergency and an invitation to lunch. How many times have you answered a message inside 60 seconds, a message you did not want to receive, from someone you did not want to speak to, and then you sat there afterwards, feeling worse than you had before it arrived, and you could not explain why you had done it that fast. You did not do it, it was done. You were informed afterwards. Notice what that means about your day. You do not have a day, you have a queue that other people write and you execute. Your priorities are real, they exist, they are simply always third in line behind whoever happened to type most recently. And the cruel part is that the reflex is fastest for the people who deserve it least. The people who love you are patient, they wait. The ones who are extracting something learn quickly that you answer instantly, so they arrive constantly. And most of what comes through your open channel is from the people who value you least, your speed selected for them. The second consequence is subtler. It is the one that ruins people slowly. I call it the debt of presence. Jung wrote extensively about the persona, not in a mystical sense. The persona is the mask, the social face, the edited version of yourself you present so that you can function among other people. Everyone has one. It is not a lie. It is a functional interface. Here is what happens to the persona of the permanently reachable. Most people build a persona that says, I am competent, I am strong, I am fine. You built a different one. Your persona says, I am available. And once that is your interface, you have published your operating hours. You have told 400 people, in a language they read without knowing they read it, that this shop does not close. A shop with no closing time does not get more customers. It gets a different kind of customer. It gets the ones who come at 3 in the morning because they know somebody will be there. And it stops getting the ones who would have valued a shop worth waiting for. Think about what that means for a moment. Not everyone who takes what you offer is taking it because they need it. Some are taking it because it is available and it is free. Available and free is a category. Things in that category get used differently from things that are neither. You built the sign, you lit it yourself, and then you were confused about who came. And there is a debt built into this that nobody warns you about. Every time you show up instantly, you raise the baseline. Instant becomes normal. Normal becomes owed. And the day you answer in 4 hours instead of 4 seconds, you have not been slow, you have defaulted. You will feel it as guilt, and the guilt will be real, and it will be a payment on a debt you never agreed to carry. That is how you end up apologizing for sleeping. And if what I am telling you is touching something deep in you, if you feel that finally someone is putting words to a thing you have carried for years without understanding, subscribe now, not for me, for yourself, because what comes next is the one that matters, and you should not have to go looking for it later. Let us continue, and here comes the third one. I need you to receive this one with your guard all the way down. It is the one that costs you your life rather than your evenings. I call it the collapse of the interior. Jung borrowed a phrase from the ethnographers who had studied it long before psychology existed. Loss of soul, perte d'âme. He used it deliberately, and he used it for a specific condition, not depression, not sadness, a state in which a person's center is still intact, structurally present, entirely functional, and completely unvisited. Here is how it happens, mechanically. An interior life requires uninterrupted time, the way a photograph requires an undisturbed exposure. Move the camera, and you do not get a worse picture. You get no picture, nothing. Your inner world is built during the intervals when nothing is arriving from outside, because that is the only condition under which the psyche will turn and look at itself. Now count your intervals, not your free time, your uninterrupted intervals, the stretches where nothing could arrive, where no part of you was standing at the door. Most people who reach the iron threshold, when they actually sit down and count, find they have not had a genuinely uninterrupted hour in 11 years. 11 years without a single undisturbed exposure. And I want you to test that, because you will want to argue with it. Think of the last time you sat down with a thought that was entirely your own, not a problem someone handed you, not a decision about somebody else's life. Your own thought, followed all the way to the end of itself, with nothing arriving in the middle. Most people cannot find one, and the ones who can, when you press them, are describing something from before the phone. Here is what actually happens in the gaps. You believe you are resting in them. You are not. You are on standby, and standby is not rest. It is the most expensive state a system can sit in. A machine on standby draws power precisely because it is holding itself ready. You have been drawing that power for 4 decades and calling it downtime. And there is a specific thing your psyche does when it never gets an interval. It stops starting. It learns, correctly, that beginning a thought that will be interrupted at minute 3 is a waste of the only fuel you have, so it stops beginning them. That is why you can sit in a quiet room and find that nothing comes. Nothing comes because your psyche filed a report years ago concluding that thinking does not pay, and it has been honoring that conclusion ever since. People call that losing your imagination. It is not lost. It was decommissioned for economic reasons, and it can be recommissioned, and the only thing it requires is proof that the interruptions have stopped. Your psyche will need that proof repeated for several weeks before it believes you. So the interior does not get built. It gets started thousands of times. It gets abandoned thousands of times. And what you are left with is not an inner world. It is a corridor. Every room in the house turned into a hallway to somewhere else, because nothing was ever left alone long enough to become a room. That is why you can be surrounded and hollow at once. That is why you can be told you are loved and feel nothing land. And it is why the silence, when it finally came, did not feel peaceful. It felt like walking into a house you own and do not recognize. You expected relief and you got vertigo. Then you assumed the vertigo meant you had done something wrong. It did not. You were not empty. You were unvisited, and you have probably tried to fix this from the wrong end. You booked a holiday. You took a weekend. You told yourself you needed rest, and you went somewhere quiet, and you took your open channel with you, and you came home no less hollow than you left. Rest was never the missing ingredient. You were not short of sleep. You were short of intervals, and an interval is not a place you travel to. It is a condition you have to close a door to produce. Now, what follows is not what you expect, and I want to be clear about that in advance. Jung is not going to tell you to set healthy boundaries. He is not going to tell you to delete the applications. He is not going to tell you to learn to communicate your needs more clearly to the people who have been taking from you. All 3 of those keep the channel open and add paperwork. What he described is structural, and it runs in the other direction entirely. He called it introversion. His word, not Freud's. And it does not mean shyness. It has never meant shyness. It means the inward turning of psychic energy. Libido moving toward the subject instead of the object. Fuel going in rather than out. And when he wrote about individuation, the long process by which a person stops being assembled out of other people's expectations and becomes one thing, he was blunt about the prerequisite. Energy has to circulate internally before anything can be built out of it. It has to run in a closed loop long enough to do work. Let me give you the picture that makes this land. Think of a river and a mill. A river that runs freely does an enormous amount of moving and no work at all. It goes past the mill. It makes noise. It looks powerful, and the wheel does not turn. Not because there is too little water, because there is nothing holding it. Then somebody builds a dam, and the water stops going anywhere. For a while it looks like loss. It looks like a river that has failed at being a river. It rises, it sits there, it does nothing visible, and then the head builds. And when they open the race, the same water that could not turn that wheel for 1,000 years turns it easily. Because now it has pressure behind it instead of only direction. That is the whole mechanism. Nothing about the water changed. The water was always enough. What changed is that it stopped being allowed to leave. Your silenced phone is a dam. The first weeks feel like failure, for exactly the reason a reservoir looks like failure. Nothing is happening. Nothing is flowing. You have stopped producing the visible output that everyone, including you, was using to measure whether you were a good person, and the water just sits there and rises. I will not lie to you about how that feels. It feels unnatural. It feels unnatural for two reasons. You have spent your whole life doing the exact opposite, and the system that made you reachable was a survival system. Survival systems do not like being switched off. They interpret closure as danger. Yours will send you guilt in the shape of an unanswered message. The guilt will feel like conscience. It is not conscience. It is a 6-year-old at a door doing the only job it was ever given. You do not argue with it. You do not delete it. You let it stand there. You do not open the door. And after some weeks it sits down. Let me tell you what those weeks actually look like, because nobody describes this part, and you will need to recognize it when you are in it. The first 3 or 4 days are easy, and that is the trap. You will feel competent and slightly heroic, and you will assume the whole thing is going to be this simple. Then somewhere in the second week, the withdrawal arrives, and it does not arrive as craving. It arrives as urgency about other people. You will suddenly become convinced that someone needs you. You will not be able to name who. The certainty will be enormous, and the content will be empty. Check your phone in that moment, and you will find nothing there. You will feel foolish. An hour later, the same wave will come again, and it will feel just as true. That is not intuition. That is the system testing whether the door still opens. Somewhere around the 4th week, the noise drops, and something worse arrives in its place. Boredom. Real boredom, the kind you have not felt since childhood, and it will feel like proof that your inner life is barren. It is not proof of anything. Boredom is what an unvisited interior feels like from the inside on the first visit. Sit in it. It is the reservoir filling. Something else starts happening while it fills. Every message you do not answer at once deposits something. Every impulse you register and do not act on deposits something. Every hour in which nothing could arrive deposits something. It accumulates the way sediment accumulates, invisibly. And then all at once you are standing on ground that was not there before. That ground is the only thing in this life that is actually yours. Everything else is on loan and will be recalled. And you will notice the order of your own thoughts change. Ideas that used to arrive as fragments start arriving finished. You will remember what you were thinking about yesterday. That sounds trivial. It is not trivial. It is the first sign that a thought was left alone long enough to complete itself. Jung had a term for the moment this reverses, and it is worth knowing because it is exact. Enantiodromia. It describes what happens when a force runs all the way to its limit and turns into its opposite. Not a change of substance, a change of direction. Your availability was the vehicle of 30 years of depletion. Contained, it becomes the source of everything you build after this. Same capacity, same sensitivity to other people, same fast reading of a room. Nothing was removed from you. It stopped pointing outward. That is the entire difference, and here is what other people notice. Watch for it, because it happens faster than you would think. They stop being able to predict you. That sounds small. It is not small. Almost everything that gets done to a reachable person requires knowing your response time. Everyone who has managed you, drained you, guilted you, or quietly relied on you doing more than your share was working from a model of you, a reliable model. Message goes out, reply comes back inside the minute, warm and apologetic and accommodating. Take away the response time and the model breaks, and a person operating from a broken model cannot maneuver. They can push, they cannot aim. You will see them start to reveal themselves at that point. Some will ask whether you are all right and mean it. Some will ask whether you are all right in a tone that is really asking whether the service is coming back online. You will not have to interpret it. You will simply know immediately, because the reading capacity was never the problem and it never went anywhere. What appears in place of the fast reply is something people find difficult to describe, a kind of density. They will say, "You seem calmer, harder to read," that they cannot tell what you are thinking anymore. And they will not be able to explain why they now treat you with more care than they did when you were giving them everything. The reason is not mysterious. Things that are always available get handled as resources. Things that are not get handled as people. And your own circle is going to sort itself without you doing anything about it. This is the part that surprises people most. You will not have to remove anyone. You will simply stop being reachable. And within a few months, you will look up and find that a certain number of relationships have quietly ended without a single conversation about it. Nobody was cut off. They were held together entirely by your output. And when the output stopped, there was nothing else in there. That will hurt for about a week, and then it will not hurt at all, because what you learn from it is worth more than what you lost. You learn exactly which of them were in a relationship with you and which were in a relationship with your availability. You could have asked that question for 20 years and never got an honest answer. Silence answers it in 90 days, for free, without a confrontation. And the ones who stay will surprise you too. Some of them you would have bet against. They will send one message a month and never ask why you are slow. And you will realize they were never keeping score in the first place. Your silence does not need to be justified to anyone. Your silence does not need to be explained, softened, apologized for, or announced with a note about how you are just taking some time. Your silence does not need permission because it was never a request, it was a result. And I want to be careful here because there is a trap at exactly this point and people fall into it constantly. This does not make you superior to the ones who still have the sound on. Watch out for that. That thought is comfortable and it is a dead end and it will cost you the whole process. Superiority is only the persona rebuilt with a better view. It does not make you better, it makes you responsible. Responsible for the reservoir now. Responsible for not draining it at the first invitation that flatters you. Responsible for not trading it back for the easy warmth of being needed by people who never asked what it cost you. Because that is what freedom is here, and it is narrower and better than the version you were sold. Freedom is not being unreachable. Anyone can be unreachable. Freedom is choosing once, deliberately, who gets through, and then never holding that decision open for review. If this reached you, subscribe. Not for me, because the next ones go further into this than I can go in one sitting, and leave a comment with one thing. Tell me how long your phone has been silent and what happened in the first week. Not the first month, the first week, because that is the part nobody talks about, and I want to know whether yours looked like everyone else's. I read them all, and if there is someone you know whose phone went quiet and who has been apologizing for it ever since, send them this. That is probably the only permission they were waiting for. You did not go quiet because you were tired. You went quiet because something in you finally finished the arithmetic and closed the account. That is not a symptom. That is the first hour of your own life. Let it stay quiet.